Google Pixel 6 Pro Review, the best flagship phone value. The Pixel 6 Pro is the most advanced phone in the series, but its strengths aren't all directly comparable with the competition. Nonetheless, it's a superb flagship that won't disappoint. After the initial hype surrounding Google's answer to the iPhone, with the debut of the original Pixel, back in 2016, subsequent releases, although competent, have failed to capture the attention of mainstream smartphone buyers and remain reserved for the tech-savvy Android fans already aware of the Pixel line's particular strengths and standout selling points. This year, however, Google is hoping to shake things up, with the latest and greatest entry in the Pixel lineage, the Pixel 6 Pro, sporting a feature set specifically engineered to position it as a direct competitor to the Pro Maxes and Ultras that occupy the top end of the smartphone market, all the while maintaining an approach that's distinctly Google. The Pro suffix may already be commonplace in the smartphone space, but this is the first time Google has applied it to a Pixel, with previous entries only ever really being separated by size, sporting an XL on the end of their names. It's the first indication that, despite some familial traits, this year's Pro is meant to be seen as a different breed to the Pixels that have preceded it. Google bills the Pixel 6 Pro as its first proper flagship phone, and while that seems unnecessarily disparaging to some of the line's previous entries, you can see why the company might be throwing a little extra mustard on this particular release. It's upgraded the primary camera hardware for the first time in years, pushed the display tech to new heights, and imbued both entries with its first own-brand SoC, System-on-Chip, in Tensor. The 6 Pro is the biggest, thickest, heaviest Pixel ever, and by quite some margin, sporting a squared silhouette and an industrial design that's undeniably unique. It's instantly recognizable, though it might struggle to find as broad appeal as some of its competitors. Seen horizontal camera arrays on phones before, most recently from TCL and Samsung's Galaxy S10 series, but the bar on the Pixel 6 Pro makes much more of a statement. Side-on, it jets out defiantly from the phone's already thick profile, and by dressing it in a contrasting black, Google's clearly making no apologies for its presence or implementation. It's a strange mix of precision and elegance, offset by some jarring details. There's a polished, partially recycled, aluminium alloy frame, sandwiched between a curved Gorilla Glass Victus front and curved Gorilla Glass 6 back, helping the phone feel thinner than it actually is in hand, while the top edge of the metal frame is interrupted by a strip of plastic that doesn't quite color match with the top half of the phone's back, undermining the otherwise premium finish. Just as Samsung's S21 range opted for the contour-cut camera bump as its standout design trait this year, Google has replaced the decidedly iPhone-esque camera squircle from the last two generations of Pixel with what it's dubbed the camera bar. Beyond its distinctive visuals, the Pro feels nicely put together, with pleasingly tactile hardware controls down the right side of the frame and a construction that's IP68 certified against dust and water. Its size and weight, however, do mean that it's likely safer and more comfortable to use as a two-handed device the majority of the time. Google's also nixed the long-running fabric Pixel cases, replacing them with partially recycled plastic translucent cases, which don't have as much character in their own right but do at least let you better appreciate the color of the phone you've bought. The 6 Pro's sizable footprint comes from its expansive 6.7 inches 19.5:9 QHD plus OLED panel. It makes an excellent first impression, trumping anything existing Pixel users will be used to, primarily as a result of its sheer size, but also its impressively high pixel density, 512 ppi, and the raised ceiling of its maximum refresh rate, surpassing the Pixel 4, Pixel 5 and Pixel 6, which all top out at 90 Hz. Being a high-quality OLED, it also offers wonderfully vibrant colors, great contrast and inky blacks. It could be brighter though, while being built on an LTPO process facilitates the panel's dynamic refresh rate support, which can ramp up to 120 Hz for super smooth scrolling and responsive gaming, or scale right down to 10 Hz to help with battery longevity, similarly to Apple's Promotion Tech, which was introduced to this year's iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. There are a heap of additional technology slotted in behind the 6 Pro's expansive screen too. You have the option of always-on display functionality, or what Google calls at a glance, which shows a clock and pertinent information, like pending notifications, the moment you touch the display or pick the phone up, which proved responsive enough to negate using always-on mode during review. Night light filters out blue light for easier and less disruptive viewing in low light, while the new extra dim feature, tucked away in Android 12's accessibility menu, lets you push screen brightness below its normal minimum, for even greater viewing comfort. Google has finally seen fit to make one-handed mode a native part of the Android experience this year, and it's essential when trying to reach content near the top of the 6 Pro's huge display, shifting everything down momentarily in a similar fashion to iOS' long-standing reachability feature. With no headphone jack in sight, and none having featured on a mainline Pixel for a few generations now, your two options for in-ear listening are wired audio via the phone's USB-C port or wireless audio by way of the phone's Bluetooth 5.2 connectivity, bolstered by dual antennas for enhanced quality and connection, according to Google. For those looking to use wired audio who are already fans of the brand, Google doesn't include any related accessories in-box, but does sell both Pixel-branded USB-C buds and a USB-C to 3.5mm adapter, while wireless headphones fans have the option of Pixel Buds A, or any other Bluetooth headphones, if you're brand agnostic. Codec-wise, wireless audio supports everything from SBC and AAC up to aptX, aptX HD, and LDAC2. Curious Pixel owners, along with a handful of devices from other brands, like Realme, Oppo and Xiaomi, have been able to get hands-on with the various beta releases of Android 12 throughout 2021. However, the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro are the first phones to sport the finished release of company's latest mobile OS, out the box. While this is unlikely to be a feature that a lot of users seek out, its inclusion in Android 12 is wholly appreciated and will hopefully become an aspect of Android on all devices, not just Pixels, going forward. There's also a new gaming dashboard that can be set up to display an FPS, frames per second, counter and offers quick access to screenshots and screen recording, letting you capture and share your last kill streak or 5-star unlock in Genshin Impact. Even with these new additions, Android on the Pixel 6 Pro still feels like one of the cleanest and easiest to navigate implementations of the OS to date, although now it comes with more personality and fluidity than ever before. While, for the most part, the Pixel 6 Pro reads like a pretty cookie-cutter upgrade, with new software features, a nicer screen and better cameras than last year's entry, one area that walks a wholly untrodden path is its chipset. Google's no stranger to slipping its own silicon inside Pixel phones, with the likes of the Pixel Visual Core and later, the Pixel Neural Core, but these chips have always operated alongside a lead Qualcomm-made Snapdragon SoC. For the first time on a Pixel, however, Google has opted to create its own silicon, with Tensor. Pound for pound, the artificial figures place Tensor, backed up by 12GB of RAM on the 6 Pro, at around the same level of performance as last year's Exynos 990-powered Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra or this year's budget champ, the Poco X3 Pro, in terms of straight CPU horsepower. But that doesn't take into account Tensor's dedicated TPU, which Google refers to as the chipset's ML engine, or its context hub, which handles low-power ML tasks. It's clear that there's more to Google's bespoke hardware than the numbers suggest. Tensor, paired with Android 12's underlying optimizations and that dynamic LTPO display should also mean better power efficiency, helped by the fact that the 6 Pro boasts the largest battery of any Pixel to date, at 5,003 mAh. Artificial testing once again suggests that the Pixel 6 Pro is behind the curve. However, in real-world use, it handily beat out its predecessor, as well as newcomers like the iPhone 13, despite having a larger, higher resolution, higher refresh rate display to power. The Pixel 6 Pro consistently delivered approximately 9.5 hours of screen-on time per charge, whereas the iPhone managed 8.5 and the Pixel 5 managed only 5 hours, a wholly respectable figure that means this handset can handle up to 2 days of use per charge. Google's Pixel phones have always served as the poster children for computational photography, with their prowess continuing to grow, despite Google leaving the underlying 12.2 MP primary, Sony's IMX363 sensor untouched since 2018's Pixel 3. The Pixel 5's camera was comparable to the competition of the time, despite the aging hardware at work, but it hinted at the fact that Google's imaging team might have truly exhausted how far they could push their computation tech on such hardware in any meaningful way. As such, the shift to a new 50 MP primary snapper on the Pixel 6 Pro is a pretty significant milestone for the line. And that's before you factor in that this is the first Pixel to also boast both an ultra-wide 12 MP and a 48 MP periscopic telephoto camera too, something the standard Pixel 6 loses out on. And all-in-one camera setup. Despite a new set of sensors, Google's imaging smarts, helped by Tensor's integrated ISP, are alive and well. It takes top-class shots across the board, demonstrating some of the best dynamic range of any phone currently on the market and by extension, some of the most accurate colors. In low light, while there's unmistakable noise and grain when you crop in, you'll get a more honest representation of color compared to the likes of the iPhone 13 Pro, which tries to more aggressively white balance under similar conditions. Accurate colors do, however, mean that shots lack some of the visual pop that entries like Samsung's Galaxy S21 Ultra offer up, but whether that's a failing falls more to preference. Then there are the Pixel 6 line's party pieces to talk about. Alongside a camera trained to better and more accurately represent a wider array of skin tones, the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro also debut new shooting options like Magic Eraser and Motion Mode, which takes the form of action pan and long exposure. Magic Eraser isn't perfect, but it's an impressively quick way of painting out unwanted people or objects in a scene. It doesn't always make its mark, be it detecting which elements in a scene you might want removed or leaving a convincing afterimage once elements have been removed, but it's one of the better implementations of such a feature, and one that Google will no doubt be keen to improve upon, being one of the Pixel 6's camera's biggest selling points. Despite the flagship status that Google is imbuing the Pixel 6 Pro with, pricing doesn't quite keep in step with those Uber flagships that the company intends for the phone to be compared against, for better or worse. Sure, it's the priciest Pixel yet, starting at £849/Euro 899/US $899 for the 128GB model, but that's still a not insignificant step lower than the top-tier rivals like Samsung's S21 Ultra, Xiaomi's Mi 11 Ultra, Apple's iPhone 13 Pro Max and Oppo's Find X3 Pro, some of which handily surpass the £/US $1,000 mark. The SKU variation by region is also decidedly unique, with only a handful of markets gaining access to the highest capacity 512GB storage model. It's $1,099 in the US.